As we look ahead to the 2025 NFL season, the AFC South to me feels like a division with a lot of hope involved. The Houston Texans are a team that is hoping that they can enter that big three with Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore and become true Super Bowl contenders. The Jacksonville Jaguars are hopeful that Trevor Lawrence can get back to his 2022 ways with Liam Cohen, Brian Thomas, and Travis Hunter, and they can once again be a playoff team. The Tennessee Titans are hopeful that Cam Ward, the number one overall pick from this past year's draft, turns out similarly to how Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix did last year, leading their team to the playoffs. And well, the Colts are probably just hopeful that Anthony Richardson can actually beat out Daniel Jones for the starting quarterback job. Either way, today we continue our X Factor series on the channel. Let's talk about AFC South X Factors for 2025. Like I mentioned in the intro, the Houston Texans are the team right now that I think is closest to knocking on the door of entering the Big Three conversation in the AFC. Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore, for the better half of the last half decade, have been the three powerhouses in this conference. But Houston is really close in my estimation. The past 2 years, they've won this division. The past 2 years, they've won playoff games. In the past 2 years, they've competed with the number one team in the AFC in the divisional round. Hell, you look at that game with Kansas City last year. It was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter, and Houston was down weapons, down guys on the offensive line, down guys on the defense, and they still found a way to compete. Houston is a lot closer to a Super Bowl than I think people give them credit for, which for me means that our X factor is going to be a player that can really push them over the edge. It's not necessarily the player with the most variable outcomes, but the player with them at their peak that can make Houston a true Super Bowl contender. My honorable mentions were Jalen Petrie and Jaden Higgins. Petrie's a guy that I think can just be an absolute missile across the middle of this defense, and him alongside CJ Gardner-Johnson I think will give him a lot more free roaming ability. Jalen Petrie could pick up your biggest player on offense, whether it's your tight end, your running back, whoever it be, and slam him down to the ground. And he can also stay pretty good connected to your wide receiver one. And Jaden Higgins, this is going to be a guy who is going to have to play alongside Nico Collins on the outside. I don't know if Jalen Noel or Christian Kirk will be primarily the slot guy, but Houston has options. They really don't have options for a strong number two outside option for Nico Collins other than Jaden Higgins. If this offense is going to be dynamic, Higgins is going to have to hit. But neither of those guys are my X factor for this team. My X factor is Will Anderson Jr. And listen, I know Waj is a phenomenal talent, but I think this is the year he makes the jump from a great defensive player to a defensive player of the year. This is the year that the Houston Texans once again find their defensive anchor, similar to J.J. Watt in Will Anderson Jr. The progression for Waj has certainly been there. In his rookie season, he was the defensive rookie of the year and had 7 sacks. Last year, in just 14 games, he had 11 sacks, and he was absolutely a monster versus Kansas City. He's part of the reason that they almost won that game. He was consistently getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And as we go into year 3 for Will Anderson Jr., I think it's the year that this guy jumps up into the Myles Garrett, the TJ Watt, the Micah Parsons tier as one of the game's elite pass rushers, and having that on what could be the best defense in football when you look at Houston. Stingley, Lassiter, Petrie, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Will Anderson Jr. himself, Daniil Hunter, the linebacking core that they have there with Al-Shaair, Christian Harris, etc. This is a loaded defense with the defensive mind in D'Amico Ryans, who has been one of the best at his craft since becoming the head coach of the Houston Texans. But this singular player in Will Anderson Jr. jumping from great to one of, if not the best in football, could be what Houston needs to absolutely wreak havoc in the AFC. To be completely honest, Colts fans, your team is one of the teams that I'm lowest on as we head into the 2025 season. I don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be, but it's a competition between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So either way, I'm not feeling great at this point in time. The offensive line lost two major pieces in Fries and Kelly. The defensive line, I'm not sure if you could generate a clear-cut pass rush. I like what you did in the secondary, but is that going to be enough to compete in this division with the likes of Houston and an improved Jacksonville and Tennessee? I'm just not sure. So when I look for the X factor on this team, who could really fill a hole that needs to be filled desperately? Honorable mention, Laitu Latu, your guys' first round pick from last year. What kind of leap can he take in year two? Can he take an elite step and really come into a player that we look at as a top 10 edge rusher in football and hold down that defensive line? Truth be told, I think that that's the level he needs to be at. And Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. 2 years ago had a fantastic season, was potentially a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And then last year, dud. Absolute quiet. Michael Pittman has to be a true wide receiver one for this Colts offense to feel dynamic. But my X factor for this team, center Tanner Bortolini. With Ryan Kelly gone and now on the Minnesota Vikings, Bortolini will step into that starting center role permanently for the Colts. And whether the quarterback is Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, the team will absolutely need Bortolini to produce in his new role to have any shot at being successful this year, whether it's in the run game, the pass game, but really just as an offense as a whole. And Bortolini's not completely new to the center role. He did get pretty solid playing time last year with the Colts, playing 348 snaps at the position. The PFF grade for him was a 65.1 overall, 22 out of 64 eligible centers. Pass blocking grade 64.6, 30th out of 64 eligible centers, and the run blocking grade 65.4, 27th out of 64 eligible centers. Bortolini was all you could ask for out of a backup center last year. Out of a guy that had to just fill into the slot and keep things rolling, he did pretty solid in the top half in football in terms of centers that played. But if you want him to be a productive starter, you want to see him top 15 in at least one, most likely two of the categories we listed off. He wasn't there in any of them last year. And again, if this Colts offense is going to run and going to produce, yes, you need production out of the quarterback position, whoever that could be. Sure, that's the easy X factor. But who is the guy that's touching the ball before it gets to them? The center. Bortolini needs to be good at his job in 2025 for the Colts to have a shot to be competing for the playoffs. To me, the Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the widest range of outcomes for teams in the NFL. I wouldn't be shocked if they were bottom 5 in the NFL again and picking really high in the draft. But I also wouldn't be shocked if Liam Cohen, Travis Hunter, and Brian Thomas Jr. helped elevate Trevor Lawrence back to where he was in 2022 when people were talking about him as a potential top 10 quarterback. Remember what he did in that playoff game versus the Chargers. Remember how they followed up that with an 8-3 start to the next season. Then everything fell apart. Are they that team or are they just ass? Maybe they're somewhere in the middle. I don't know, but this is the year we're going to find out for Jacksonville, and they have a few different X factors that could contribute to that. The honorable mentions, of course, Trevor Lawrence himself. We've seen him play some really good football. We've seen him play some really bad football. We've seen him now with 3 different head coaches as we go into this year with Liam Cohen. If it doesn't work with Cohen, it's probably just a Trevor Lawrence issue. But if it does work with Cohen, what's the limit? We all remember this guy as a generational prospect. How good could he be? And Jordan Lewis comes in to play nickel corner for this team, and I think he could be exceptional for this defense. He's one of the stronger nickel corners in football, and I think that's a more undervalued position. But ultimately, how could my X factor for this team be anybody other than Travis Hunter? When I look at Travis Hunter, I think he's the biggest X factor in all of football because this is the first time we're seeing a guy give a real attempt at playing both sides of the ball at the NFL level. And I have so many questions about how is that going to work? Like, I have no doubt in my mind that Travis Hunter is a one-of-one athlete. To even attempt this at the NFL level sounds crazy, but how effective can he truly be on both sides of the ball? Can Travis truly be a wide receiver 1 and a cornerback 1 at the NFL level? Will the Jags limit his snaps on one side of the ball? If so, which side of the ball? Will Travis Hunter be at a greater injury risk playing on both sides of the ball? Will he wear down at the end of games? Will he wear down at the end of the season? There are so many variables that go into a guy trying to be highly productive at both wide receiver and corner in the NFL. There's no way that he couldn't be the X factor for this team when he's the X factor for the NFL. And I don't want to just completely stay negative with it, because we do have to look at the what if Travis Hunter does it? What if Travis Hunter becomes the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL? What if Travis Hunter can actually be a 1,000-yard wide receiver and also in the fourth quarter come out on defense and lock up your team's #1 receiving threat? What would that mean for him as a player? Where would you value him? Is he the most valuable player then in the NFL that's not a quarterback? It would certainly seem to be that way. So the ceiling with Travis Hunter is so exceptionally high because he could become the most valuable player in football that isn't a quarterback. Then what do you pay him? It's so hard to look at this and not have a million questions. And it's why I'm so excited to watch the Jaguars this year, because we are seeing an absolute unicorn in Travis Hunter, and the sky is the limit for him. And if he can reach that ceiling, what does that mean for the Jaguars? While the Tennessee Titans are coming off of having the #1 overall pick in the draft, I don't think it's crazy to say that they are a fringe, maybe even a wild card playoff team this season after drafting Cam Ward. Cam Ward and Dan Moore are my two honorable mentions for this team. Cam Ward's kind of obvious. It's self-explanatory. You draft a quarterback with the #1 overall pick. He comes in and replaces what I think was the worst starting quarterback in football in Will Levis. How high can he raise the ceiling for this team? And Dan Moore, you bring him in to play left tackle for this team to get some protection for Cam Ward. Can he hold up his end of the bargain? You gave him a monster deal. But my X factor for the Tennessee Titans is none other than wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Last year, Ridley went for 68 catches, 1,017 yards with 4 touchdowns, and we could say he had pretty subpar quarterback play. But as we look ahead to 2025, you have to wonder, what can the 30-year-old wide receiver do with an upgrade at quarterback? And I think there's two different versions we could look at why Ridley is an X factor for this team and Cam Ward. For starters, in the now, in the present, as we look to this season, what will a true wide receiver 1 be able to do for Cam Ward, and how much will Calvin Ridley truly be able to be a true wide receiver 1? If he can reach that level and execute at a high level, we've seen in the past what that could mean for rookie quarterbacks. Last year, we saw the very high end of it with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin as his wide receiver 1. And while I don't think Calvin Ridley is going to reach Terry McLaurin levels on the field, we also saw Courtland Sutton provide a lot for Bo Nix. And I do think that that is very comparable to what Calvin Ridley could provide for Cam Ward this season. If you can be a true trustworthy option, a true reliable third down target, that will make life in the NFL a lot easier for Cam Ward early on, and could lead to the Titans stacking up wins as early as 2025. But maybe more importantly, Ridley is an X factor for Cam Ward's development for the future. Having a good rookie season, whether they make the playoffs or miss the playoffs, if Cam Ward can be proud of the way he played and feel confident going into next season, that could mean a lot for his development. Calvin Ridley as his wide receiver 1 has a lot to do with how Cam Ward's season plays out, especially when you look at some of the other options in Tennessee. Xavier Restrepo's college teammate, Chigun Konkwu, Tyler Lockett. There's not a lot of star-studded names in this receiving group. Calvin Ridley is going to have to carry a load for this team. We'll see if he can, because it would really help Cam Ward's development if Calvin Ridley had a true wide receiver 1 season. But as always, guys, these are just my thoughts on these X factors for the AFC South. Be sure to let me know yours in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you haven't already subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button. Check out some of the videos that'll be popping up on the screen now. I appreciate your guys' support. Peace.